Hello, people. Welcome to the next episode of Late Friday Night Banter Blitz. My name is Andrei Mostrovski. I'm an international master, originally from Ukraine, and now I live in Germany. I just want to underline that because many people started typing in a chat area. So for German, your English, not that bad. So I'm not German, okay? But that's not very important. By the way, it was very hard week for me, so I'm happy to finish it with playing my favorite game. And just information for newcomers, so people who watch this for the first time. If you're not a premium member, you're not allowed to play, so only premiums can play, but everybody can watch. So if you want to play, actually just promote to a premium member and everything will be fine. All right, so we already have a lot of challenges. Kremnik student asks, where is your star short, Andre? Well, it's not very far. Maybe next time I will wear it if you want. So let's have a look. 16 challenges already, and as usual, recently I will start with a few games with newcomers, so the guys I have never ever played. So let's have a look. So these guys we have already played. I can say the first one, Mirko MNE from Montenegro. We have never played. He's a premium member, so everything is fine. Let's just accept the challenge. Here we go. So I'm playing with white the first game, and today I'm in the mood to experiment a bit, so I'll try to play something that I usually don't play. So c4, one of a sudden. e6, very decent reply. So if I play e4 then d5, and probably black has no problems. If I play d4, it transposes to Queen's Gambit, or maybe English, or maybe Nimtsovich, and so on. I will try g3 move, a flexible one. d5. All right, bishop g2. So let's see. I want to sacrifice this pawn to open up the diagonal h1, a8 to my bishop. Knight f6. There are a lot of different moves, so I can play d4 immediately here, but I would prefer making this flexible move, queen c2, just protecting c4, and probably forcing black doing something dubious like knight c6. I'm not sure that it is a good idea to play like this, but maybe it's a pliable move, I don't know. So let's try knight f3, normal move, continuing the development process, castles, and now I can play d4, probably achieving a good version of Catalan. Let's try it. And let me know if everything works fine. I mean, the sound, the picture, and so on, because, well, sometimes we experience technical problems with the broadcast. So d takes c4, d4 pawn is hanging, but, well, I can take on c4 protecting it, so let's do it. Stream is fine. Alright, very nice. a6. Okay, strange move. Probably black prepares b5, but with the knight on c6 it doesn't work. So let's just keep activating my pieces. Rook on d1 looks natural, just supporting d4 pawn. At some point maybe I will play d5. At the same time, if black prepares something like c7, c5, undermining move, my rook is here to prevent it. For example, after knight a5. Right, so I just put my queen on c2. Oh, b5, this way. Well, it weakens c6 a lot, I think. So let's try immediate knight e5. With bishop b7, I can take this bishop. I can also try an interesting bishop d2 move attacking the knight a5. I'm not sure if it works fine. Oh, b4. b4 is an interesting move. So b4 attacks the knight. If knight goes away, I take the bishop. If bishop takes b4, I take on b7. Then knight c6 attacking the queen, attacking the bishop. But there will be something like queen d6. Then bishop f4. And the bishop b4 drops. The only problem with this move is that after b4, probably bishop g2 will be played. And black is fine, more or less. Okay, I'm not sure if I have tactics here. I can try e4, by the way. e4 is an interesting move, just avoiding exchanges. But in this case, my bishop will be self-limited. So maybe bishop b7, knight b7, knight c6, finally. Just occupying this very important c6 square. This looks just fine. Let's do it. Knight to c6 now. Very good outpost. Blockading c7 pawn. And this pawn is a backward pawn, weak pawn. So I'm just not against attacking it a bit. I can also consider, I think, just taking the bishop next move. Because now there are some tactics connected with c5 square. Not quite sure if it is good or bad for me. So, no, knight takes c7 simplifies the position a lot. So e4 now, but I forget about my developments. Maybe bishop f4, but then knight e5. Okay. Let's play e4. So, in addition to play against c7, the potential play I have very strong center. So now after knight e8, of course, knight e5 is very tempting. Knight takes c7 is also a move. I would prefer taking the bishop. I like bishops, right? Now bishop f4 with a temple, attacking c7, developing the bishop. Everything looks very logical here. And I have to be a bit faster because I have 1 minute 30 seconds, even less. So I don't want to lose in time here. At some point it will be useful to protect e4 with the f3 maybe. Right now maybe. But then c5. c5 should be considered. Alright. Probably it's better just to keep developing the pieces. Let's do it. Attacking a6. So can I take it? b5 will be hanging as well. Let's just do it. Only 50 seconds. I have to be faster. Alright. So I want a pawn. The knight on the a5 is hanging as well as the pawn on b5. So everything says I grab some material already. Not a bad position for the first time playing Catalan with white. Of course, black made a lot of mistakes, but still. Okay, now I think queen c5 is the easiest. Just simplifying with 2 extra pawns. It's a decent strategy. Bishop controls b8 square, preventing rook b8. At the same time, my bishop is about to occupy d6 maybe. Here, of course, b4. Sort of automatic move. h6, okay, f3. As I said before, it is an important move. Just to free my knight. Let's put the bishop here. Maybe not the best square, actually, so let's go back. Waiting a bit, yeah. b2 is very safe position, preparing a3 if b4 will be attacked like this. activation of the knight. It was prepared because e4 is no longer hanging, right? My knight will have some perspectives on d4. And now my rook attacks along the d file, which is also quite good, quite natural. I can also try... Oh, this is a great blunder. So it just drops 2 knights simultaneously. Very good for white and very bad for black, so it's a catastrophe. So what about g4 here? Creating sort of a checkmate on g7. Probably wasn't necessary. Rook takes b7 also wins easily. But okay. Takes. And the rook to e1. Continuing the attack against the king. Checkmate. Alright, so that was not bad, as I said, for the first time playing Catalan with white. So I do play it with black, of course. I have an experience there, but every time when you see the position from a different perspective, it might be problematic. So I do believe that the Catalan with this knight on c6 doesn't look very nice for black, because the knight simply doesn't belong to c6 square. It limits the on c7 pawn. So in many cases it just leads to very ugly situations. It's not very easy for black to coordinate the pieces. So d takes c4, queen takes c4, a6, rook d1. I think that white already has a serious advantage, because black's pieces, as I said, are just not coordinated. Probably it was better for black to try something passive, like bishop d7, but with some ideas of moving the knight away, then bishop c6. But if white plays correctly, I think it's not possible to perform. For example, the move like rook d1 still works fine. And then, for example, after rook c8, preparing knight a5 followed by c5, white can try bishop d2 move. And I have a strong feeling that I already saw this position, and if I'm not mistaken, it is something like Vaganyan against Dvoretsky. And by the way, this is a great example of the prophylactic thinking. So rook goes to d1 to prevent black's c5 move, and then after rook goes to c8, bishop goes to d2 to prevent knight to a5 move. And now it's almost impossible for black to coordinate the pieces normally. So my bishop can go away to e1 if necessary. So for example, if it is attacked with the knight from e4. But the point is that white just develops the pieces, controls the center much better than black, and simply prevents most active counterplay here. So in my opinion, knight c6 was already a mistake here. Well, at least inaccuracy, serious one. If black wanted, of course, to play this bishop e7 castling then. Because after knight f3, for example, it was still possible to try something more or less like reversed Benoni after d4. So d4 here was very logical follow-up of knight c6 move. So this position is playable, of course. But bishop e7, giving me a chance to play d4, was wrong. So I think it was better for me to play d4 immediately, because after castling, black still could play this d4 move. And it deserves serious attention. After castling and d4, I think white is already better. All right, let's go further. So the next challenger, whom I never played. Let's see. So player number 5, we played once. Kuzma, of course, we played. Karl Nering, we played. The Crusher, come on, we played a lot of times. So KM Beast 007 from Czech Republic. But 3 minutes. I don't play 3 minutes, sorry. So let's have a look. Premium member, 5 minutes, accept. And with black. Again, let's try to experiment a bit. I'm going to play something that I've never played. So here we go, my friend from Chile. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Abort. Sorry, we have no time. We have no time. Smugs 2006 already played. Pawn holder GM 2523. We have never played. That will be a real challenge now, so let's accept. Okay, here no experiments. I will just play solid. I mean, against such a great opposition, there is no place, no room for experiments. All right. So Queen's Indian defense, maybe Catalan. Knight c3. Okay, so let's put the bishop on b4. And we have a hybrid variation, so knight f3, knight c3, extremely popular nowadays against Nimzo and Queen's Indian defenses. It's knight e2. Protecting e4 square, so that avoiding all the stuff connected with h6, g5, knight a4. So here, as far as I remember, an interesting idea for black is to play h6 first. And now as far as I remember, knight c6 is an interesting try, just completing the development of minor pieces, attacking d4. So this move works not that bad exactly against knight d2 because of handing d4 pawn. And now knight from c6 usually goes to e7 to try to challenge the bishop h4. That's the point behind knight c6 actually. And pawn g2 is still under attack, so this makes development of the bishop f1 somewhat complicated. All right, queen b3. Well, I have pair of bishops, but definitely I will give up my dark squared bishop. But I don't want to do this just straightforwardly right now. I mean, because it will be just a complete justification of the queen b3 move. Because white wants to recapture with the piece, not with the pawn. Okay. Which moves do I have here? So c5 looks interesting, but quite dubious because of weakening d6. a5, just waiting for white's a3 move, and at very least I will have then a4 move, just fixing the pawn structure there. Okay, let's try a5. So I definitely have a drawback in my position, so pawns are damaged on the king side. At the same time, I have sort of compensation because I have the g file which is open. I have some pressure on the g file. But maybe a5 was a mistake already. Maybe c5 was a bit better. Just creating some counterplay in the center, I'm not sure. And a5 also looks like a concession in the sense of castling lawn, so maybe I should have avoided this move, because now I will struggle to find a good position for my king. But okay, white's king is also not castled, so I still have some tricks, some counterplay, I mean. Now what about just f5? More or less stopping white from easy development. Okay, so what to do now? h5, h4 looks really in the spirit of this position, especially after white played f3, so there is probably no possibility to play h4 because g3 is vulnerable, right? So I have a chance to get rid of my weakened pawn. So I'll do that. Why not? Very interesting game. G takes h4. Okay, so what to do now? Knight to d5, queen h4 doesn't give me anything, so probably just the knight to g6 should be played, attacking h4. So h4 is hitting. Most likely white will just castle now. Of course, queen side, not king side. Then it will capture on h4. And probably castle as well. So it's time to castle, I think. Because otherwise it's very hard to coordinate my pieces. h3. Not quite sure what white is going to do here. e3 is weakened. So maybe it makes sense for me just to try this straightforward attack against the e3 pawn. Let's see. Okay, e4. Knight f4 looks very tempting. Let's do it. So now I can activate my pieces somehow. I mean, rook to g2 looks very interesting. Bishop takes f3 is also a move, probably. Rook to g1 check, takes, king to c2. Knight to e2 immediately here. Queen to e3, pinning everything, attacking the bishop. And then bishop goes to f1. Maybe this is an interesting idea, so let's try it. I can't believe that white can afford playing king c2 here, but maybe it's also a move. Yeah, bishop f1 looks like a move here. Alright, now queen to e1. Check. Forcing the king to c2. Do I have anything here? Knight to e2. And this looks very winning, but probably I just don't have enough resources. What about 92 right now? Is it something? Or just a bluff? Probably just a bluff. And no time, yeah. If white finds a defense, I think it will be just lost for black. Really? It's okay. It was possible. Very good resource, by the way. Yeah. Now it's lost, at least on time. But I think, yeah, it's lost absolutely. Yeah, very nice. Very nice game. Very decent one. I think I just lost some chances somewhere. So after queen h4, I thought that white would play something like c5 here. So c5 looked very tempting. From my perspective, it looked very, very dangerous because now I can't castle here. and knight c4 is coming, or c takes b6 and then something like that. But white decided to play on the king side, right? And after castling h3, this looks very dubious to me. So I think after that, black at very least has no problems. So there are a lot of different plans, including what I did. Queen f2. Queen h6 was also a move here, by the way. Just attacking the pawn from this square and then continuing with the knight h4 move. Very nice position for black. I mean, if e4, I can just take it if I want. And what? Nothing. So my queen pins the knight. If pawn takes e4, let's say, I can keep playing, I mean, like f5 maybe, knight f4, and so on. So at very least position is just equal. Queen f2 looked also very tempting. I don't know why it didn't work, because, well, everything looked very, very nice. And knight f4 also looks very natural decision. Rook takes g1, rook takes g8, g8 takes here, queen e3, and bishop f1. So I can't believe this position is bad for black. Of course it's not. For example, I can take on c3 if I don't want to play this complicated position with the queens on the board, and then e takes f5 at very least. Or I can just ignore this pawn. So queen e1, king c2 also looked very good. And a4, I just wanted to grab b3 square, but maybe it was bad. So here I think a4 was a mistake. Black simply has no time for such a move, and it's much better to do something active here when white's pieces are simply pinned and not coordinated. So what to do instead of a4? Probably rook to g3. Let's see if this gives me anything. So rook to g3, creating this threat. Well, at very least just to take on f3, and after knight f3 to take the queen, then rook takes f3, regaining the pawn. And if white takes, let's say, on e6, I can probably take here. And if, well, d5, that is the move that I was afraid of because of queen h8. And if I play e5, I just switch off my own bishop. No, rook g3 doesn't work. E takes f5 could have been a move, because here after, let's say, d5, which looks very natural, just to switch off my bishop, I can keep playing, let's say, regrouping this way. So rook goes to e8, controlling the e file with the idea of like playing knight e2 now. Now it looks very natural and very promising, and maybe even rook e3 at some point when h8 check won't be that dangerous. So I think I had a good position, but well, I spoiled it by playing e4. After that, well, here, of course, I should have captured on e6. I should have captured on e6 somehow, maybe with the d pawn, I don't know, maybe with the f pawn. Doesn't really matter. But knight e2 was completely wrong. It was a time trouble mistake, and it was probably a decisive mistake. By the way, even here, after this f takes e6, black is still looking more or less fine. So I'm sure that black is not that worse. Yeah, I'm a pawn down, but my pieces are just dominating, right? Yeah. All right. Thanks for the game. That was really cool. That was really cool. So let's play one more with the newcomer. With the newcomer. Just a sec. Let's see. Ganesh Murthy. Accept. All right. And again, I'm playing black. So here I will be experimenting 100%. Kramnik student asks, how much did you calculate? I'm not sure if this question was addressed to me, but I didn't calculate much because I had no time in the end. Okay, let's take it. Always like an experiment. Yeah, bishop g5 is the strongest move here. along with bishop e3, so both are cool. And this one is strange. Just giving up a bishop, I'm sure it's not a good idea. So c6 just controlling d5 and b5 squares, key ones. So e5, I actually missed this resource. e5 was interesting. d takes knight e4 and then something connected with the d6 square, but I think I'm more or less fine there. Alright, knight goes away, now it's time to castle. So I'm completely satisfied with the result because I have pair of bishops, typical pawn structure for Philidor. I control dark squares better than white because of my bishop g7 has no counterpart. The only problem, a tiny one I think, is just the weakness of the d6 pawn, but now after f4 white also has the vulnerability on e4. So I think our weaknesses are more or less compensated. Alright, what about b5, b4, just forcing the knight to the ugly position? I think it looks just okay. Oh, I missed the tactics. My god, I was really lucky that my opponent didn't spot it. It's possible, I think, to take on b5 and then to play knight to bishop to d5. Yeah. Very bad. Even now it was possible to try knight d5, by the way. If I don't miss anything. But I think I don't. What I should have missed, I already missed. Alright, now the knight occupies, in my opinion, ugly position on a4. And e4 is not that protected, so I can just cause some damages, maybe. But I have to be careful, because if I play rook e8, for instance, e5 will be really unpleasant. Because if I take on e5 twice, then f7 is hanging. So how to deal with this? Bishop a6 looks normal, knight to d7 looks normal. There are a lot of interesting and tempting continuations, to be honest. So I'll try bishop to a6. At some point, maybe even intended bishop to b5, but the main idea is just to set up this pin along diagonal a6, f1 to stop the knight from moving somewhere to g3 maybe, to create some pressure, at very least, to occupy the active position with the bishop after all, and so on. c4. Okay, if I take en passant, then knight comes back to the normal position, so I'd probably ignore it. Which means that maybe it is the time to attack e4, because the diagonal is closed, right? So e5 is no longer the case. Let's try it. Okay, pawn is protected. So let's keep developing the pieces. Knight at d7. Probably c5 was even better. Yeah, c5 was a move. I don't know why I didn't play it. It looks so natural, so let's do it right now. I weakened d5, of course. But it's very hard for white to get to d5 first of all, and second of all, look, after c5 this knight is on a4 almost forever. Bishop b3 is also limited with the on pawn c4, so I just blockaded c4 to prevent this bishop's activation. Okay, queen d2 drops e4, by the way, so I can take it, I think, if I want. So rook e4, queen d5, another rook to e8, protecting everything. Doesn't look like white has something there, but maybe white has something. So rook e4, queen d5, rook e8, queen c6, attacking the bishop and the knight, but then maybe knight to b8, protecting the bishop and attacking the queen on c6. Yes, I think I can take. Let's take. And now, I guess it is a good time to simplify the things a bit, because I already have extra material. Right. Rook e7 is the only active possibility for white, so let's prevent it with king f8. Bishop comes back to the game, bishop b7 I mean. But white also goes to a better position now. But still, the knight on a4 looks very bad. So I have to protect it this way. A bit ugly, but I do believe it's just for several moves. By the way, I could have captured on c4 if I wanted. Yeah, probably it was better. But okay. Even this looks very decent. Yeah, bishop d4 dominates the position. White simply has no moves. Simple tactics. So check and take c4. Game over. Alright, now we'll take it with pleasure. Okay. It doesn't really matter if I have extra material or no. So basic endgame principles prevail. So centralization. Okay. I'm usually curious what my opponents want to do in such a position. I mean, what is the point of keeping playing? It's so lost. And I was even ahead. Not ahead. Actually, my opponent was ahead on time. Strange. Anyways, bishop f6 I think is a bad decision. Absolutely strange to me. So bishop h4 was a move here. Just keeping the bishop on the board. And this is annoying. That's why a better way for black to play this is like e4, e5, knight f3, d6 takes, and g6 immediately. Then bishop g7, and only then, after white defines the position of the bishop, knight to f6. That's the point. That's a little trick. With this point, with this order of moves, of course, bishop g5 is the best move, but after h6, the idea is to keep the bishop on the board. So bishop h4, or maybe even bishop f4, anything, but not taking the knight. But then I made some mistakes. So after queen f6, this c6 was probably not necessary, so immediate bishop g7 was much better, just completing the development. Castles, bishop g7. So here was an interesting resource for white to play e5. I can't take with the queen because of rook e1, winning the queen, so I had to take with the pawn, the knight e4. But probably it's not completely compensated lost pawn, because after queen e7, okay, not lost but sacrificed, I can't see the follow-up. So if white sacrifices something, then plays knight d6, maybe only this way, but no. If knight c6, let's say I just take on c6. With the knight, bishop on c8 is protected, and if check, alright, I can play king f8. Extra minor piece, and I don't think white has anything serious there. So just to check, right? Because it is a typical idea. I mean, here it doesn't quite work, but in any other case, it might be crushing. So bishop g7, knight e2, I castled f4, and here b5 was just too much. I mean, queen e7 first was much more solid continuation for black, and then knight e7, maybe knight f6 or knight c5, just developing the pieces the normal way. I mean, that is a typical pawn structure where the knight belongs to c5. Let's say black usually plays a5 at some point. b5 was too early. I mean, I have a feeling that knight b5 was just possible here. I played b5 and only then realized that this sort of tactics could work. So bishop d5, and I don't see how can I save my rook. So this gives white just an extra exchange, I think. Yeah. So yeah. So b5 was absolutely wrong. Bishop b3. Okay, b4, knight d5 was interesting with the same idea here. But yeah, knight d5. So b4 was also wrong. Knight d5, I mean, knight c7 is a threat, so I have to play something like queen d8 here, but then knight takes b4. Alright, I take on b2, maybe then go back with the bishop, but it is at least an equal position. So when after bishop f6, queen f6, I estimated my position as a better one already. Here I don't think that my position is better, because white has just an enormous advantage in development after bishop b2. So knight e5 was interesting. After knight a4, everything was already clear, so especially after this c4 move. So yeah, and here instead of knight d7, of course immediate c5 was much better, because now my knight can even go to c6 and then maybe at d4. So clear advantage because of two factors. So the knight on a4 is absolutely misplaced, and bishop b3 is now not active piece after c4. And again, pair of bishops, better control over dark squares, and so on. A lot of different factors. All right, all right. Let's have a look. What do we have here in the sense of high-rated players? I want to play some games with guys rated like 2400s, 2500s. So let's see. Well, Kuzma is almost 2400s. There is one guy, our chess, 2500. So let's play our chess. And I'm playing white. Okay, let's play e4 and see what is going on. c5, knight f3. So maybe then I will play, I mean, after several moves that are quite standard, I will play something new to me. g6, well, against g6, unfortunately, I don't have anything except for this bishop e2. So let's play the standard bishop e2. So, constant followers of my Banter Blitz shows actually know already what is the point behind this very calm approach. Just to force black struggling to find active continuations. And, well, knight a5 is something new to me. Can I play e5 here? Very typical reaction. So e5, if takes a5, queen d8, rook d8, knight a5. If after e5, knight takes b3, e takes f6, knight takes a1, f takes g7. I have two minor pieces against the rook. So after e5, definitely the knight will go away somewhere, probably to e8. After which, do I have anything or not? That is the question. Because e5 will be hanging. Not quite sure. It looks very tempting. Let's try it. I never saw this knight a5. Probably because there are some problems with this. So let's take here now. And knight to d5. Looks very nice. So now bishop to g5 or what? Bishop to g5, f6, takes on f6. Oh, this doesn't look very good for black, to be honest. Yeah, it looks devastating. So I have all the pieces in the play now. And I just attack, so I develop my pieces with the attack. Every move is the attack. So, bishop c4, is it something? Bishop c4, takes g5, then I take e7, let's say, or knight f6 or something. There are a lot of tempting continuations here. It's very hard to make a decision in such a situation. There is also an interesting tactics. Knight takes e7 now. Queen takes e7, e takes f6. And then bishop c4 is coming with check and attacking the queen. Is it possible? Should be possible. Or vice versa. So knight e7, queen e7, bishop c4 check, and then takes f6. That should be devastating. Let's try it. So bishop c4 first, and then e takes f6. Yeah, it doesn't look that I missed something. Everything is pretty much forced. Now my rook also works. But I'm a minor piece down at the moment. If I missed something, blundered something, it might be simply lost for white, but I can't believe in such a scenario. Yeah, fighting chess. One of a sudden, as you can see, even after castling short in dragon, it's possible to force some complications. King h8, okay, takes here. All right. That is not a bad result, I think. So what do we have here? The rook and the minor piece against the queen. Yeah, I still have to be careful, of course. So what black is going to do? Probably something like knight e4, knight g4. So I think f3 could be a very useful move. b6. Seriously now? What is the point? I mean, I just played f3 and bishop on b7 doesn't look very active. And also I think it will be a good idea for me to exchange this guy, because this guy is really dangerous potentially. Now black has no dangerous counterplay, I guess. This might be a trick. So let's don't check. Let's don't take it prematurely. Now I think I can take it after this exchange. And queen e5 looks very good. So I just wanted to prevent this check on d1. And what about g4 now? Oh, our chess. Oh, yeah, it was a hallucination. Sorry. It was a hallucination. Yes, he's a premium user. Everything is fine. Yeah, this looks absolutely winning. All right, so actually knight a5 was really dubious. So after knight a5 in dragon, e5 is kind of typical trick. So the point that if d takes e5, then I just take on d8. And then knight takes a5, extra minor piece, nothing to worry about with white. And if knight takes b3, then I take on f6, attacking the bishop. If knight takes a1, I take here. And after king takes g7, usually the bishop is already developed. Here it is not, but it's not a big deal, so I just develop my bishop somewhere. Let's say g5. e3 is also possible, and the knight is trapped here. So I just grab the knight, and I have two minor pieces to compensate the rook and the pawn, which is quite promising for white, having pair of bishops and so on. That's why my opponent was forced to go away with the knight. We can see there are no good squares, because if d7, then d6 drops. So knight goes to e8, and I just took on a5 and knight to d5. Very logical follow-up, because after e5, knight goes away and no longer controls d5 square, so d5 becomes possible to occupy with the knight, after which, well, as you can see, white's position is just winning, just devastating. So a lot of tactics after f6 and so on. So knight a5 was a mistake. All right. So let's try. Is there anybody rated 24 plus, 2400s plus? I mean, yes. There is the guy CJ24. Let's play him. And after this game, I will come back to the normal order of challenges. So yeah, let's do it. e4, e5, knight f3. Let's castle. So I usually play d3 here, but let's see if I can achieve something in this position. So I know that d4 leads to the endgame, this famous Berlin endgame. There is also an interesting try for white to try just to mate rook e1, I guess. Yeah, rook e1. With just a tiny advantage. Maybe even no advantage at all. So knight takes e5. And now something like this. By the way, this line is quite popular nowadays. I saw a lot of games on the top level. So Carlsen plays this with white. Anand, as far as I remember, also plays this. So white has sort of, yeah, minimal edge, something like that. But of course, it's very hard to achieve anything serious, because position is absolutely symmetrical, and yeah, black simply has no weaknesses. Simply no weaknesses at all. Yeah, quite boring variation, to be honest. I will never play it again. At least without the preparation. It's definitely not for Blitz. 100%. So it's maybe good for long games, but not for Blitz. That's for sure. Alright, what about occupying this square? With the bishop. It became possible, why not to try it? This prevents bishop from getting to g4, and maybe prepares g4 for white. Would be nice if I could, let's say, somehow restrict that knight g7. I have a feeling that we play 3 minutes. Yeah, because I already have 1 minute. So probably I missed the fact. Elbing says, 3-minute game, Sergey. Who's Sergey? Karyakin. Alright. It's time for 95 move, I guess. Strange decision, queen d7. But even with this knight on e5, I don't have anything serious. Except for probably this trick. I don't know if it is possible to try to do things like this. And now, what I wanted to do. I wanted to take the bishop. Maybe with some tiny edge. Still with some edge, I don't know. Okay, I have to be faster. Now at least we don't have this boring symmetrical pawn structure. Which is something. But I think black is just fine here. G5 was probably not that necessary, but okay. I guess also playable move. At least it gives me some hooks. So centralization, once again, very important. Also freeing the rook. Oops, little trick. Little trick, capturing b7. Still not clear, but it gives me some play, right? c6 drops. What to do here? Yeah, one on time. Of course, I already had a better position, but well, even having an extra pawn here, it's not clear absolutely because black has very active pieces, right? So I achieved nothing out of the opening, of course, but that is exactly what this system offers. So just a long play without much theory, something like that, I think. White has really just a tiny edge because black is still not that coordinated. But since there are no weaknesses, I think this position is just drawish long term. It should be like this. So first of all, I would have avoided playing moves like g6, creating some weaknesses. So it was much better, in my opinion, just to develop the bishop c8 now. There are a lot of different opportunities. The one which is very naturally looking is bishop f5, preventing my bishop from getting to d3. I can't bother this bishop with knight h4 because bishop f6 controls it. Then you can play h6 just to save your bishop on this diagonal forever. If you want, you can always try bishop e4 move. Knight comes back to d6 very soon. And black is just fine. So white has absolutely nothing here. So just a drawish position. Maybe even a bit more pleasant to play with black already. So I should have captured on e8, I think, to avoid these things, and then to have bishop d3 to have the time to do that. So g6 gave me some tricks, but still, position is absolutely normal, except for the fact that the bishop, light squared bishop, is now not that cool, right? So it is limited with own pawns and so on. So that is the problem. So I started doing some normal moves just to improve positions of my pieces. So here after bishop d3 there was an interesting idea to try this bishop f5 immediately, trying to exchange your bad bishop for my good bishop. And if bishop takes g7, you just take on d3. I think it's just absolutely normal. But maybe I still have some edge, maybe have some pressure after queen e5, let's say. So my knight is not worse than this bishop, because this bishop is limited with own pawns and has no objects of attack in white's camp. But, well, I simply can't believe that white can squeeze anything out of it. Anyways, so queen d7 just gave me a tempo. Still nothing, of course. Yeah. And here, I think that playing g5 was a mistake. So instead, I would prefer something like knight e6, just trying to do what? To play against, not against, but in the center, right? Yeah, because it's very hard to find the pieces to play against here. So the point, just to avoid making moves like g5, maybe trying to focus on the central play. Maybe we need rook d8 followed by d4. So if I play f4, let's say, then d4 with the counter attack. So cd4, knight takes d4 looks fine. Rook takes d4 also looks very interesting. So as we can see, white's just weakened a lot here, and it might be quite bad. So bishop c2, rook g2, or something like that. So white also has to be very careful about making moves like f4 here. So after rook d8, it was necessary for me probably to try something like rook d1 and then to c. But again, I think black is just okay. So everything was fine. Okay, so now we get back to normal order of challenges. Yes, Don William, accept. And again, let's keep experimenting. e4, so c5. And I won't even play neither that I played when I was a kid. I'll play, c3. Yeah, that was always very nasty to me to play against this. Yeah, I just can remember how I struggled being a kid, poor kid, facing this c3. It's really annoying. Knight f6, this d6 followed by knight f6 is definitely not the main line. So against c3 there are two main moves, knight f6 immediately or d5. What? d3? I think that bishop d3 is better, just developing the bishop, then bishop c2 and d4, but okay, d3 is also playable. Sometimes white plays that. The other thing is, does black have a problem after that with equalizing the chances and playing for initiative even? This way. Okay. Like also play something like e7, e5 just to get into sort of Spanish pawn structure. But I guess this plan is also just alright. Let's say rook b8, then b5, b4. Like an English opening or a closed variation of the Sicilian. So it's kind of typical plan. So white wants to play e5. Maybe it's not a big problem for black. So I'll try just following my plan, b5, b4. Oh no, it was just a okay, e5. So for a second, I just thought of d4 possibility for white. And probably d4 was better than e5. But who knows? Maybe e5 also works here. So let's start with this. Now c5 is hanging. Okay, what about just queen d6, then probably bishop f4, and then knight h5, rook takes h5. Okay. This loses for black. c4 is a move, but maybe not that great because of d4. Bishop f5 sort of development. Attacking d3 looks quite promising. Looks quite fresh. Let's try it. Instead of passive defenses, let's play active chess. And by the way, this free c8 square for the rook. Let's say if white won't take on c5, I have a chance to play rook c8 if I want. And maybe I won't, because rook on b8 is quite vulnerable right now after h2 b8 diagonal became open. Knight to a3, really? What is that? Why the knight goes there? Okay. Now I have a choice between taking on the d3 and playing b4. Both look quite interesting. So the b4 I will definitely make my bishop g7 potentially much more active. At the same time I will give c4 square for the knight. But maybe it's not a big deal because I take on d3 then. Very hard to make a decision in such a position because it is so unusual to me. But let's try this b4. At least it looks, well, natural, because again, I just follow my plan, my initial plan of making my bishop g7 active. Takes. Now c3 becomes my target. Now what? Queen takes d3 simply, or bishop takes d3? I don't know which is better. Let's take with the bishop. Maybe it was a mistake. Oh, bishop takes f6. I just missed that. My goodness. So now looks like I have to sacrifice the queen. I have to sacrifice the queen because if I take bishop, then rook d5, bishop c4, rook d8, rook d8. This might be quite interesting compensation, by the way. Let's do it. I have pair of bishops now, and I have the rook and the minor piece, a typical so-called Lasker compensation. It might be quite good, by the way, for black now. So probably then what I do, bishop d3, c4, c3 is a weakness, then maybe rook b2. There are a lot of interesting maneuvers, but I have to be very careful about white's maneuvers as well. So now bishop is hanging. I think I have to put it here, or at least here it looks very active. Very good. Yeah, that was quite normal to do this, right? So now what? Let's play c4 first. This passed pawn might be just decisive factor. I guess it is. yeah, supported by 2 bishops and both rooks. Looks very good. So just c2 here, or what? Yeah, why not? c1 or rook b1. Oh. Yeah, that was very long. That was too long to make such a decision. Come on. Why am I so slow? Yeah. All right. That was very interesting game. Very interesting game. I do believe that this blunder was very helpful. I mean, I'm sure that here Black has just a complete compensation. Maybe White could have played better than that, because yeah, c3 just dropped too fast. Maybe here something like queen a3 deserved attention, but it looks passive, I know, but maybe it was the only way to keep the pawn on the board. But after that, I think Black still has some play. Maybe it was better for me to take on c3 here just to avoid this. I mean, queen a3 move, to start with this move, attacking the rook, and after rook goes here, I still can do this, bishop d2, because pawn on c5 is not vulnerable, I guess, in view of this rook b1, and I take on f1 with winning position. So yeah, bishop c3 was definitely a much more accurate move to start with, because c4 gave White a chance to protect the pawn. And for White, maybe, again, it was not that bad, all this, I mean, e5 and so on. But here, after I played bishop f5, I don't know. Well, it looks like Black has no problems. After rook c5, let's say, I can take on d3, queen takes, let's say, bishop takes. Everything is fine, just a normal Sicilian position. Typical pawn structure. I still have a chance to perform this minority attack with the b4 to open up the diagonal h8, a1. At the same time, there is a possibility to play rook c7 here, by the way. So maybe there is something for White, maybe. It doesn't look very promising, even if White wins material here, because Black simply has very active pieces and so on, but this definitely deserved attention. I mean, yeah, winning the queen was so tempting, but yeah. As you can see, it is a typical situation when the bishops are too strong. So this Lasker compensation gives the weakest side great chances. So yeah, I just in the full control over the position, because White simply has no real targets here. The bishop is doing nothing on g2, it attacks nothing. Of course, it controls a8, but well, it's just yeah, it's a minor issue for Black. And only Black has targets, so even if let's say c3 remains on the board, I have plans connected with let's say playing c4 at some point, then maneuvering my bishop, let's say, to diagonal a7, g1, and then I will start attacking f2. That's usually very annoying. All right, so thanks for the game. Anyway, it was very interesting, very challenging, and so on. Let's go further. Johann Wilhelm Möbius, accept. And don't ask me, please, why do I play to same guys every time? Well, because they actually, yeah, leave their challenges first, prior to anybody else. And after playing newcomers, after playing some higher rated players like today, for example, I usually come back to normal order of challenges. So who was first? Yeah, being paired. All right, something like Grand Prix or something like, I don't know, very close to that. Bishop d7, a4. Absolute experiment. Knight c6, say d3. And what about f5 right now? I know that it looks dubious, but it's quite typical. Can I try it? Uh-huh. So now I can take an e6. This will be a weakness, or not. Looks very promising just to attack this e6 pawn then. I mean, knight to g5. As far as I remember, it is always better just to take the pawn on f5, but maybe this is also playable, because now I can see that after knight g5, let's say, there will be something like bishop c3 takes and d5. Maybe I just overestimate my position, but in any case, that will be not that bad for me, because I will force black to give up the main piece. So let's do it. It's very hard even to find another way to save the pawn. Queen c8, of course, is possible, but I don't think that it is better than taking on c3 and playing d5, honestly. It looks very passive, I mean. By the way, while my opponent thinks, I noticed the question from chat. I don't remember who actually asked me about that, but it was something like, are you going to become a GM, or you're satisfied with the current level? Of course, I'm not satisfied with the current level. Of course, I'm going to become a GM. So you can't be satisfied with the current level until you reach the very top, I think, and even there there is room for improvement. All right, so queen g4 looks now very tempting, as well as queen f3, but queen f3 will be parried by knight e5, attacking the queen and controlling f7. As for queen g4, it's better because after knight e5, I will have bishop e6 check, I think. At very least, I will win a pawn. Also, there is a possibility to keep playing with queen h3, attacking h7. Yes, so I will definitely choose this square to attack. So e6 is hanging, and yeah, queen h3 or something is coming, but knight d8, looks like controls everything, at least for now. But black's position becomes so loose. So let's try queen h4. Now say knight f3 attack in h6. So bishop takes h6 is playable now. King h7 is sort of a mistake. Knight f7 should have been played. Yeah, let's take it. A lot of vulnerable spots. No surprises that black blundered something. But knight f7 looked like a decent alternative. Still holding. Now I just want a pawn. d6 also drops. But what is really bad for black here is that the king is absolutely exposed and abandoned by pieces like the queen, the rook, so by major pieces. So it looks like the war was started when the generals were drunk, sleeping somewhere away from the center of the main activity. I don't know, knight g5, what is that? Or just rook f1? Yeah, let's just play rook to f1. I mean, it can't be bad to bring another reserve to the attack. Andre, what happens after d5 when you play queen g4? Okay, we will see that after the game. There were a lot of interest, a lot of interest in resources. I mean, for both sides. But I think immediate d5 probably I could have just captured on d5. As far as I remember, if e takes d5, then bishop takes d5 check, something like that. But we will see. We will see a bit later. All right, check. And knight comes back to g5 with the simple threat of queen h7 checkmate. And it's not possible to prevent it. All right, so let's see. Let us see what happened. So after f5, first of all, I'm not sure what is the evaluation of just capturing. I mean, g takes f5, e takes f5. I'm not quite sure that white has a refutation, immediate refutation, but it is quite typical. I mean, typical pawn sacrifice. So then white castles, knight g5, so there is a pressure. It was possible to improve black's play before that, but let's focus on what happened in the game. For now, f takes e6, takes e6, castles, knight g5. I was quite sure that black will do this. So bishop takes here, and d5. Yeah, without this bishop on g7, of course, black's position looks very dangerous. But at the moment, black controls the center very good, and black is ahead in development. So black definitely has a compensation for this missing bishop. Also, white's pawns are not that cool. So if we go to the endgame stage, of course, this will matter. But even for now, I'm not sure that white has anything concrete here. So I thought I would play something like bishop a2, just keeping the tension and trying to prove that my bishops are something long term and so on. So I have some attacking resources still. This maneuver of the queen to attack h7, h4, h5 and so on. But first I have to complete the development, and it's not that easy stuff. I mean, that was playable in my opinion, because queen c8 looks very passive. So takes, queen goes to g4, and here Kramnik student suggested d5. Let's have a look. So let's take this. So e d5 was possible. for many reasons. I mean, if let's say e takes d5, I guess even knight takes d5 is possible here. Let's check. Knight takes d5, bishop takes g4. Let's say knight e7, knight c8. After which, what do we have? I have an extra pawn. Well, not that much, right? No, this doesn't look good. So after taking on d5, I think there is a intermediate move. Zwischenzug, queen to h4, attacking h7, and then I will take d5. And this looks devastating. That's the idea. So d5 wasn't possible. I think after queen g4, I'm already much better. Knight e8 was a move, definitely. And after queen h4, I felt like, okay, this should be winning somehow. But after h6 and knight f3, I saw that black could have played knight f7, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure that it is so easy as I expected. It's definitely not easy now, because black protects everything. And if my queen gets to f6, then bishop g... Okay, bishop g7 is not possible, so maybe queen f6 is quite annoying here. Not quite sure, but I attacked nothing. So e6 is protected, everything is protected. Maybe the only problem that black struggles to find a useful move here. Because if queen goes away somewhere, I just take on e6. If bishop goes away from f8, I take the knight. If knight goes away somewhere, g6 drops. Yeah, by the way, queen f6 is a nice resource. Just a calm move. Occupying weakened square and controlling everything, and black is just pinned, so every piece is pinned to protecting something. Yeah, queen f6, of course I didn't see this resource while calculating this line during the game, but yeah, now I see that white should be much better there. But king h7 loses on the spot, I mean bishop h6 and queen takes e7. So in the opening stage, by the way, black played very nice. First of all, after bishop b5, knight e7 deserves serious attention. Just trying to force me to grab this knight instead of the bishop, right? So to have bishop spare. But bishop d7 is also absolutely normal move. The only thing after a4, knight c6, d3, I think a6 is not necessary because actually the natural position for the bishop is exactly on diagonal a2, g8. So you just kick me there to occupy the best possible position. So instead of that, probably immediate e6, knight e7 was better. Or even just knight f6 and castles. Also absolutely distant plans. Knight f6, castles, and then knight d4 or something like that. So it should be equal at very least, in my opinion. All right. All right. All right. Let's go further. Prison Mike. So the second game, I think. Well, at least according to the history. So, you're welcome. And you're online. Let's go. c4. So what did I never play against c4? Which system? Probably f5. Let's try f5. I don't know. So like Dutch or something. I'm trying to build up the Dutch style position. e6. Zweihochzach says, oh, coffee almost empty. That's true. Yeah. Only 2 or 3 sips left. Very bad. Bishop b4. Okay, let's take it. Let's see how it works. At least some damage, right? To white's position. Now let's fix these pawns. Very nice, by the way. c5. Fixing this c4 and c3. Sorry, bishop goes to b2. There are no perspectives at all for the bishop here. So it's a waste of time at very least. Let's keep developing. What is going on? I don't understand. So bishop went to b2. Now a3. What is that? I mean, it's not logical, right? Just to make the own bishop so bad. Alright. Let's keep developing the pieces. Oh, very nice. So I wanted this move to happen because now I have this c4 as an object of attack. Okay, how to attack it correctly? Knight to a5 looks very simple solution, but then e5 can be played. Maybe to start with knight g4. I mean, after knight g4, the knight from f3 doesn't go anywhere because of f2. And I can even attack c4 from e5. Don't know. Or maybe just knight to a5, and if e5, then knight g4. But then h3 might be played. And if bishop f3, knight takes e5, then takes on a8. There is a possibility to sacrifice the exchange or something, I guess, on f3. Still doesn't look very convincing. I can also try something tricky like knight a5, e5, knight to e4 even. Yeah, and my knight won't be hanging on g4. It will control f2, exert pressure on f2, I mean. Knight c4 will be threatening, something like that. There are a lot of interesting possibilities. Okay, let's try this knight a5, simply attacking c4. It looks like an easy prey. E4 or g4? Let's try g4, come on. Knight takes c4. Let's do it. One pawn. So that was only one pawn. Now what? Let's take this guy, just for fun. It wasn't necessary, but I believe that I will have great compensation. Experimenting, after all. It wasn't necessary, absolutely so. I could have played everything else, but I just believe that my knights will be dominating this position very soon. Very, very soon. So queen a4, can I just take on f4? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Let's just come back to a5. And I says time. Yes, really, I have only 1 minute. That might be an issue. Okay, one knight will go to f5. Another one. Where goes another one? So first I have to take f4 pawn, I think. And protect my d7 that was hanging. Yeah, let's grab it. With pleasure. By the way, where the knight goes? d2. Alright. d2 looks good. Oh no, it doesn't go anywhere. Let's attack it again. And now if knight goes somewhere, then I just grab the bishop on g2, which is very nice. And in this case, I can just go away with the rook, right? Yes. Or no. No. I think I will just lose on time this game. Oh, seriously? Alright, thank you. Why didn't white just capture on f3? I don't know. Of course I have a compensation once again, but not that much. Now I have simply winning position, but maybe okay. I'll just lose it on time. That might be the problem for me. Let's remove everything and hope that there will be a checkmate in attack with my rook and pair of knights. Yeah, that was too experimental. I mean, my approach in this game. Too much. Oh, come on. That's great. My opponent became very generous. It's very nice. Yep. Блин. What the fuck? Yeah, that was absolutely stupid. Whew, I was punished. I was punished for doing unnecessary things. That was, yeah, that was just what should have happened. After all this stupid things I did. Okay, I guess you understand what I mean. So, yeah, starting from, I don't know, this taking on f4, that was absolutely unnecessary thing. But even there, okay, that was quite good. There is nothing even to discuss. It was absolutely winning everywhere. Yeah, so here maybe after queen d3, queen here, and queen d2, rook f3 was not necessary to do. So just rook goes away, knight goes to h4, takes on g2, knight takes d2. Yeah. In fact, maybe rook somewhere along the force rank was the best decision for me. But then rook e3. Okay, white still has some chances. But of course, then in the end, I missed this a6, so I didn't pay attention that white played a5. I was too quick to respond. Yeah, it's clear that black is winning here, but no time, right? All right. Yeah, very pity. But okay. The result of experiments. Sebi, 1996. I'm playing with black. So let's keep experimenting. First time white, says my opponent, and that's true. So every time when we play, I play with black. It's really annoying. Bishop to c4. All right. I wanted to try this modern defense with the a6 and so on, but after bishop c4 I don't think it is a good idea. Now I guess knight takes e4 is just something typical. So bishop f7, rook f7, knight e4. Well, position is a bit imbalanced, but black will have pair of bishops. And if knight takes c4, then d5. Which more or less saves black's problems. But maybe I'm too optimistic, I don't know. Bishop d3 is still playable, having somewhat better pawn structure, but I think I can try take c4, bishop e4, and then c5. Immediately undermining this pawn, and if dc5, then queen a5, queen takes c5. Maybe equalizing, maybe not. I'm not sure. This looks a bit unusual to see white plays bishop c4, knight c3, and so on. But maybe it is all theory, I don't know. As I said before, I'm just experimenting today, so I play something I don't really know. So try to understand many things exactly during playing it. That is what I actually wanted to try, to create a isolated pawn maybe. And if white takes with the knight, maybe I can even consider this e5, f5, and so on. Alright, what to do now? Knight c6 attacking d4 looks very natural. But then d4, d5, probably. And where my knight goes, I don't know. Knight e7 followed by knight f6 is also quite natural idea. But I want to try to use my advantage in development, a slight advantage. I mean, I just castled already, and white's king is still in the center. But I'm not quite sure if I can. Oh, bishop f5 looks interesting operation, but then bishop takes b7. Sorry, it would be just a blunder. It would be just a blunder. What about knight c6, d5, knight b4, and if a3, then knight a6, and then knight c5? Can be interesting. Queen a5 check, bishop d2, queen b6. Also sort of normal idea. Queen a5 check, and then queen a6, stopping white from castling, but then bishop goes to d3. There are so many interesting possibilities. Oh, bishop, queen a5, bishop d2, queen a6. There is no bishop d3 move. Yeah, let's try it. Or even queen b5, attacking b2. Question from Zweiholzek's question. Andre, what's next in Training Tuesday? there will be a very special training Tuesday next time. It will be versatile chess training. So I will present the concept of versatile chess training, and you'll be training during all the episode. So there will be one challenge after another. Very interesting. Well, at least it should be interesting. In my head, it looks very good. And we'll see how it will work in practice. Okay, queen e2, I can take it. King takes e2, and I'm not quite sure if I achieved anything. But do I have anything better? I don't think so. Let's take it. Kasparov noticed that I used the Russian word during the previous game. That's true. In the very end, it was like automatic. Well, I have a feeling that white is just okay now. I missed something. Alright. I have some problems with the development of my light squared bishop. That is annoying. And d5 is coming. Also quite bad for black. But okay. Yeah, I'm in a time trouble again, and position looks very bad. But okay, maybe I will manage to coordinate my pieces somehow. Maybe not. d4 drops. Looks like that. Knight e5 gives nothing because pawn takes and protects d4 square. But knight c5 looks fine. Let's make the things complicated. Okay. Should be winning. All right. So white just made a mistake in the time trouble again. Bishop d5 well, probably wasn't necessary. I think after bishop d7, the only thing that stops white from playing knight c5 maybe is just this check on b5. So I guess white should have solved this problem somehow, maybe with the help of king e3 move, maybe with the help of a4 move, just stopping me from playing that, sorry, bishop b5. And then, yeah, knight c5 is coming and position looks already quite bad for black. So I think queen a5 was already the move in the wrong direction. So instead of doing it, it was just better to play something like knight e7, knight f6 was very decent, let's say this way. Castles, then knight to f6, forcing the bishop somewhere here, and then playing normal game against isolated pawn, maybe bishop e6 followed by bishop d5, something like this. Black has no problems in my opinion. Another way of playing this was knight c6, forcing d5, more or less, because bishop e3 leads to the same queen a5, but now in a better situation. After bishop e3, by the way, there is also another interesting Karakanian trick, I would call it, bishop f5, and if bishop takes f5, queen a5 check, and then queen takes f5, so this means I just managed to exchange my bad bishop, because it is potentially very limited with on pawns for white's good bishop, and now it has serious weakness of light squares and so on. So this looks very good. So d5 should have been played here, and now I have different resources, but I think knight b4 just an interesting maneuver. So what happened here? Yes, white grabbed the space, but now diagonal h8 a1 is open, so my bishop works fine here, exerts pressure on b2, and my knight has some perspectives of being maneuvered like knight a6, knight c5, and then bishop e4 should go away somewhere, and d5 might become a target. By the way, there is a concrete threat of playing just f5 and then taking on d5, so white has to do something with that. Yeah, queen a5 was a mistake for me. All right, one more. So with the I, 5 minutes. Let's play. Oops. G3. Knight c6. All right. E5, and we have English opening. Have never played English opening with white. At least over the board during serious tournaments. And the 6 already looks like a mistake, so instead of d6, maybe bishop b4 or bishop c5 are standard moves, I think. Here, let's try this. So anyway, it will be my plan to play b4, b5, just like I did with black against Don William today. So it is the same position, but reversed. So with white pieces instead of black. So same plans. Okay, so b5 takes b5, cb5, now goes away somewhere. All right, let's put the bishop on d2. And knight to f3, but then e4. Or just e3 with the knight e2. Or knight d5. And knight d5 looks good. But then bishop d5, cd5, knight b8. Okay, I will have pair of bishops, but maybe not that cool position. Alright. How to play this? a4 maybe. Yeah, let's try a4. Miktal repeats his question. Andre, we're all waiting for a premium coaching show. When will that happen? Last try. The point is that I don't really know. Yeah. PT, but I don't know if it will start at all. I mean, so chess 24 is going through changes, and there are a lot of things to discuss on the top level there, and so on. So I do hope it will start soon. I mean, at least in 1 month or something, but you have to be ready that it won't happen at all. This is also a possible scenario. So one of a sudden I won the pawn, right, on b7, so knight b8 was just a blunder. And now we have normal English position, but with the extra pawn for no compensation. Very good result. And this drops another one. Very important one on e5, central one. Alright, knight c6 drops the knight. Come on, what is going on? A lot of presence. Yes, I saw it. It was coming. I mean, even this drops. I have an extra rook, right? After all this math. And very strong passed pawn on b5. That will become a queen in 1, 2, 3. Almost there. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, d6 is passive. I mean, it's playable, but it's better to develop the bishop first. Bishop b4, bishop c5 are main theoretic moves. And then, of course, this knight b8 was just a terrible mistake. After that, I just collected the handing material and already had a winning position. All right, so let's play probably the last for today, and I want to play Mobby because we didn't play for a long time already. So let's do it. d4, knight f6. Oh yeah, I want to experiment today all the time, so yeah, it looks very strange and dubious, but I'm just in the mood of experimenting today, so sorry for this. White keeps playing Mostrovski. White keeps playing in Mostrovski style. Maybe it's a good try. Maybe. So how to justify the position of the pawn on b5? I have no idea. I have no idea. So maybe even c4 here. I have a feeling that it is possible, but I might be wrong. Looks nice, right? I prevented white from playing bishop d3. Very hard to believe that this cocky approach can work. But maybe it will work in this game. Alright. Building up a strong center. Just a normal healthy approach against this strange play. d5 will be too much, right? But at the same time, d5 helps me to support all my pawns that look pretty much vulnerable now. So let's try d5. Yes, e5, natural reaction. So now my bishop is stupid on this diagonal, but I have a feeling that I will have a chance to improve it through c8. Bishop goes to g7. Let's don't forget about the development and also exert some pressure on e5 pawn. At best, I want to force white just to take on f6, after which my pawn structure will be slightly better than it is right now. Let's say queen c7 now, directly attacking e5. What white will do? Just take on f6 or queen e2. Queen e2 stops the own development. Oh, knight h4. Very interesting try. Just intending to do what? To occupy f5, right? Also, queen g4 is his threat and queen h5. So I think I'm more or less forced to play bishop c8, but then queen f3 might be annoying. What about just taking on e5? Just saying, come on man, I just don't believe you. So knight f5, bishop f6, so what? I'm not sure that white has anything to prove that this loss of pawn on e5 was correct. There is a harsh discussion about the shows in the chat right now. And Zweihox just said very wise thing. So he said that it is much more important that we heard about the changes in general. And that is true. Because maybe there are not so many shows at the moment that you really appreciate and so on, but in some time, maybe weeks, maybe month, there will be a lot of new stuff, maybe even more interesting than it is now, or if compared to how it used to be. So just be patient. At very least you have training Tuesday every Tuesday, right? Almost every Tuesday, okay. So, yeah, bishop f6. I mean, at very least I try to do everything to help you to improve, right? During training Tuesdays and during Banter Blitz shows as well, because I try to explain the things. Well, sometimes, of course, I have simply bad days and can't pull it together, but everybody has bad days, right? But in general, I guess my explanation is more or less useful. Sometimes even insightful. So here I do believe that white will just struggle finding the compensation for sacrificed pawn. Queen g4. Alright, what is this threat? Knight g7, king f8. It's not ace red. So maybe just h5, but then queen g3, pinning my pawn e5. Or just knight d7 or knight c6, continuing the development. Yeah, knight c6 looks good. Let's play knight c6. I can't see anything wrong with this move. I just developed the knight. Attack d4 pawn, by the way. It's not hanging, of course, at the moment, but it might be very soon. And in this case, I have knight takes queen takes e5 is also possible. Yeah, queen looks just monster on e5 in the center. And now h5. Just look how much space I have here. It's enormous. At some point I will just play d4 or b4. Most likely d4, I guess. Queen f5. Okay, let's simplify, because after all, I just have extra pawn. Should be somehow winning. Complete in development. And now let's start with this. And now what? b4. Yes. b4. Takes. And this. Center. Center matters. So my bishop on b7 no longer belongs to this square. It's much better to have it on diagonal, yeah, here, I mean. Because from here it supports the further movement of my pieces. Yep, I won. So it was possible, of course, to convert it in a much more convincing fashion, but yeah. I'm a bit tired because, come on, we're doing it more than 2 hours already. By the way, it was somewhat like usual time, right, for my Banter Blitz show, so I usually did it for 2 hours, but recently I started doing it a bit shorter because of some yeah, circumstances. So at very least I'm a young father, right? So I have to devote a lot of time to my newborn and fast growing son. Yep. Anyway, from time to time, I'm just happy to be with you longer than usually. So 2 hours plus. I think I played a lot of interesting and useful games. So the one with pawn holder was really interesting and challenging, and I actually was crushed. But at some point I had good chances. And also you saw that, well, when you have the advantage, you don't have to do something that is not necessary, because another game that I lost today, I lost exactly because I started doing absolutely unnecessary things. I lost to Prison Mike, as far as I remember. Yep. Thanks a lot for being with me this evening. I wish you a good weekend, and see you premium members next Tuesday during the Training Tuesday show.